There's been a lot of talk from Canadians saying, I don't want to go to the US anymore.
This week we were planning on going, but we decided to make a different decision.
We're boycotting them for sure.
We have to stand up for Canada. You know, they're poking us in the eye, so we got to poke them back.
Traveling to the U.S. under Donald Trump can carry a lot of emotional baggage.
He created an atmosphere that's very hostile for us.
U.S. lawmakers in border states are trying to lure their northern neighbors back. Like in Vermont, which temporarily renamed Church Street to Canada Street.
New numbers are in showing fewer Canadians are spending the summer here in vacation land.
Yeah, that is according to the newest data that just released by the federal government. CBS 13's Sam DeCoste spoke with business owners who say they're already feeling the effects firsthand.
America's most loyal customers just fired America. 24 million Canadians, the people who spent $6.8 billion annually buying American goods and vacationing at American resorts, decided they'd rather go literally anywhere else than set foot in Trump's America. How did the world's politest people coordinate the largest economic boycott in North American history? It started with a single handwritten letter. That letter arrived at Hawaii's tourism board on a Tuesday morning. Polite, devastating, prophetic. I'm refusing to spend my $10,000 vacation budget in your beautiful state while President Trump rains chaos on Americans and Canadians alike. Sincerely, a former loyal visitor. Michael Mortensen from Vancouver had just broken up with America. He wasn't alone. Across Canada, 62% of the population was making the same decision. Welcome to the largest tourism boycott in North American history. Car crossings collapsed 37%, hotel bookings vanished by 90%. A 1.2 million member Facebook boycott group coordinates the largest consumer revolt against American tourism ever recorded. Even the Girl Guides of Canada, the politest organization on earth, suspended all U.S. trips, citing safety concerns for their members. Politicians thought Canadians needed America more than America needed Canadian money. Empty parking lots and 230,000 Americans facing unemployment tell a different story. Economic amputation began January 20th, 2025, Trump's inauguration day. By May, the hemorrhaging had become unstoppable. Automobile crossings fell 38%, while air travel dropped 24%. Forward airline bookings showed 70% declines stretching through September. Statistics Canada abandoned diplomatic understatement entirely. This represented the steepest peacetime decline in Canada-US tourism relations on record. But fury drives these numbers, not economics. Julie Morrison owned Vermont property for decades, until Trump's 51st state rhetoric crossed her personal red line. This threat of annexation by this very powerful militarized ally, we took it very seriously, and honestly, it's frightening. Tourism is one of the tools that we have. She sold everything at a loss, redirecting her vacation budget to Portugal. Devastation spreads through American communities like wildfire through drought-stricken forests. Maine's Old Orchard Beach transforms from bustling summer destination into economic wasteland. Hotel lobbies that once buzzed with French-Canadian conversations now echo with empty silence. The Point of View Inn, where Canadian families returned annually for decades, stares at reservation systems showing 90% cancellations. Paradise Park Resort Campground recorded over 100 cancellations, a 250% increase from normal levels, leaving RV sites designed for Quebec families sitting empty under summer sun.
More Canadians come to America than tourists from any other country. Last year, Canadians made over 20 million visits to the U.S. and spent more than $20 billion here. But this year, many are not coming to America, as I saw firsthand on a recent trip to Vermont, right near the Canadian border.
Executive Director Abby Long says this season has been a rough ride.
We have seen a 50% decline in our Canadian members.
Last year, 20 million Canadians visited the U.S. That's over a quarter of all the tourists who come here. But in June, car crossings to America dropped by 33%. That's the 6th consecutive month of decline. Air travel has also plummeted. So why are Canadians staying away?
Frankly, Canada should be the 51st state.
Bluff Point Golf Resort in Plattsburgh tells the story in stark visual terms. 30 Canadian cars used to fill the parking lot by 8 a.m. daily. Quebec license plates dominated like suburban driveways during hockey playoffs. Now, golf carts outnumber visitors in asphalt expanses where bonjour welcome signs gather dust in pro shop windows. The 19th hole bar, once alive with French conversations and maritime accents, serves lonely American retirees who wonder where everybody went. Across border communities, duty-free shops that catered specifically to Canadian shoppers stand virtually empty. Shelves stocked with maple leaf souvenirs and Canadian favorite brands collect dust while employees face hour reductions or layoffs. The economic ecosystem built around reliable Canadian traffic, from gas stations to restaurants to outlet malls, watches foundational customer bases simply vanish. Florida's snowbird economy faces complete extinction as Canadian retirees liquidate decades of investment in a panic. Insurance brokers report 75% drops in travel policy demand, while realtors field panicked calls from Canadians demanding to, quote, sell at any cost immediately. Century-old snowbird communities watch their identity evaporate as condo buildings that once flew Canadian flags in winter courtyards sit eerily quiet. Fort Myers airport terminals designed around Canadian charter flights echo with emptiness during what should be peak snowbird arrival season. Rental car agencies that positioned fleets specifically for Canadian drivers face massive overcapacity. Medical facilities that specialized in Canadian snowbird health needs, dental work, routine procedures scheduled around winter stays, report 60% revenue declines as their patient base disappears entirely. Meanwhile, Las Vegas, global entertainment capital that survived recessions, pandemics, and economic disasters, couldn't withstand Canadian abandonment. Casino floors designed to handle massive Canadian tour groups show embarrassing gaps during traditionally peak periods. Hotels that offered Canadian-specific packages and currency exchange services watched their specialized revenue streams evaporate. Total visitors fell 11.3% as Canadian-focused airlines experienced 55% passenger declines. When Canadians stop gambling in Sin City, something fundamental has shattered in the North American relationship.
Why are Canadians staying away from Las Vegas? Could it be the rhetoric out of the White House, or is it the tariffs, or is it both? Let's hash it out with the help of the Nevada Independent reporter Howard Stutz.
And Canada is the #1 international tourist destination, tourist market for, coming to Las Vegas. I first thought, well, it would look like the tariffs, and I wrote about it. A week later, I had Canadians reaching out to me saying, it's not the tariffs, it's the disrespect.
By all accounts, it could be billions of dollars for the United States. Obviously, we would take a chunk out of that here in Southern Nevada. But I just have talked with Canadian friends, but they were saying at first they thought it was funny, the whole 51st state thing. Now it's insulting. I've talked about on the program, a neighbor who lives behind me, who is a snowbird, is purposely boycotting coming down to her home here in Las Vegas this season.
The Trump administration policies created perfect conditions for tourism annihilation. New registration requirements mandate fingerprinting for stays exceeding 30 days. Border detention stories spread virally across Canadian social media, featuring citizens like actress Jasmine Mooney, held 12 days in ICE facilities she described as iceboxes. Iranian Canadian citizens endure hours of questioning, device searches, social media password demands. When your closest ally's government warns citizens about visiting your country, diplomatic relations have moved beyond strained into genuinely hostile territory. Beyond policy mechanics, Trump's rhetoric ignited Canadian fury. Repeated 51st state suggestions transformed casual vacation planning into political warfare. Rita Bailey, 75, crystallized national sentiment. I am 75, and I can't see this changing for the duration of my life. I won't back down, and I pray that our leaders won't either. Economic mathematics reveal staggering losses. Current 37% declines suggest damages approaching $6.8 billion, what tourism economics president Adam Sachs calls catastrophic for border communities where Canadians represent 30 to 50% of the customer base. Substitution effects expose completely transformed Canadian preferences. Japan gained 23% more Canadian visitors, while Air Canada deployed fleets to Naples, Prague, and Manila instead of American destinations. Domestic RV rentals surged 25% as Canadians explored their own country rather than cross hostile borders. Shopping tourism, cornerstone of border economies, essentially vanished overnight. Wallen Galleria Mall near Buffalo resembles a retail graveyard where Canadian tour buses once lined parking lots like migrating herds. Fashion outlets of Niagara Falls, specifically designed around Canadian shopping patterns, reports tour operators have completely disappeared. Seattle premium outlets that built entire wings targeting Canadian shoppers face massive vacancy rates as anchor stores reconsider lease renewals. Tour bus parking areas sit empty, painted lines fading under weather that once sheltered dozens of Canadian charter buses daily. Gift shops stocked with I Love America merchandise and US-themed souvenirs aimed at Canadian tourists watch inventory collect dust while employees face reduced hours. The economic ecosystem built around predictable Canadian shopping patterns collapses, as Mackenzie McMillan, Vancouver travel consultant, quantified. For leisure travel, we've seen almost complete drop-off, probably about 90% since February.
I'm curious, is Massachusetts feeling right now any sting from some of the back and forth between President Trump and Canada over the past 6 months? What's happening with tourism? Is it slowing down for you like it is for other states?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Joe, that was the consensus of all the governors. We've seen a drop in our states of between 20 and 60%. 20 and 60% drop in Canadian tourism in our states alone. And we're only in June. So that's really devastating.
Desperate states launched unprecedented damage control efforts that proved futile against entrenched Canadian fury. Maine Governor Janet Mills traveled to Canada, installing Bienvenue Canadiens signs at border crossings, while tourism officials scrambled to rebuild relationships that took decades to establish. California Governor Gavin Newsom released video messages directly addressing Canadians, as Palm Springs erected "Palm Springs Loves Canada" banners throughout the city in desperate attempts to salvage winter tourism revenue. Vermont businesses implemented at-par pricing, accepting Canadian currency at US dollar rates despite significant exchange rate losses. These gestures, while well-intentioned, faced impossible headwinds as Ipsos polling found 65% of Canadians actively avoiding US travel, while 67% boycott American products entirely. Larry Sharp captured the sentiment. "My wife and I became rabid label readers. We refused to cross the border, although we frequently did so in the pre-Trump era." Industry experts predict sustained negative impacts extending well beyond current political tensions. Tourism Economics projects 20.2% declines in Canadian visits for 2025, translating to 4 million fewer visitors and $4.3 billion in lost revenue. Recovery timelines remain bleak. Tourism Economics suggests headwinds will persist throughout the end of the administration, while WTTC warns recovery could require several years just to return to pre-pandemic levels. Border communities built on generations of cross-border commerce face existential threats. Canadian millennials who've never experienced hostile U.S. border treatment now get educated about American political dysfunction through detained relatives and canceled family trips. A generation of potential future customers receives their first impression of America through travel advisories and border horror stories. Michael Mortenson's $10,000 Hawaii vacation went to Japan instead. Julie Morrison's Vermont property sold to Americans who'll never match her decades of local spending. Rita Bailey's lifetime boycott pledge represents millions of Canadians who built vacation patterns around American destinations they'll never visit again. This economic catastrophe signals something far more dangerous than lost tourism revenue. When America's closest allies, people who share the world's longest undefended border, who've been reliable partners through every major conflict, actively avoid the country, it sends a message to every other nation watching. If Canadians won't come, who will?